Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing, and that is Huck L. Berry, the senior executive mega mouth producer of the show. Demands more time on the air, more scratches. I don't know what I'm going to do. She knows she's got me. I'm hers. She's a good girl. Huh, Huck? Yeah, you're a good girl. 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 Yeah, you're a good pup. Oh, you're a good girl. She knows she's got Dad locked on her finger. Yeah, you're a good puppy. So, I hope you're doing well. Go over there and watch our movie, Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State, available on Amazon right now. Please go watch it. And if you watch it, or if you have watched it, please leave a review. Reviews help us a lot. People go and they look over there on Amazon and they read the reviews and they say, hey, look at all those crappy reviews. So we need reviews. You got to say what you got to say. If you think it's a crappy movie, say it. But that and IMDb. Yeah, we got trashed on IMDb a while back. We still need some reviews there. But you are appreciated. Oh, Huck just yelled at me and she said, Dad, show my picture. I haven't showed that in a while. That's Huck. She likes to think this is Huck TV. And, somebody sent me a video a little while ago about Great Pyrenees. Huck. And they said, yeah, my dog, 1 minute wants to be stoic and left alone, and another moment she comes in and puts her head on your lap and just wants endless scratches and loves. And that is exactly the way Huck is. Very independent, protector of the property, and then the next minute, she just wants to be cuddled like a little 4 or 5-year-old kid. It's amazing. But that's what makes these dogs interesting to me. So now we've been talking lately about bears on the trail. And we've talked a little bit about Japan and the problems they're having this year with bears. It's astounding. Astounding. I've never read anything about bears being a problem in Japan before this year. This article, June 8th, 2026. This is in a big newspaper, folks. So bear with me. It's kind of gruesome. Pensioner has head ripped off in horror bear attack while picking mushrooms. A man in his 70s went missing in a forest in Iwate, Japan, after going to pick mushrooms and was later found dead. Authorities suspect he was attacked by a bear based on scratch marks on the body. A mushroom forager who ventured into woodland has been tragically discovered dead with the head torn from his body. The man, who was reportedly in his 70s, vanished on Wednesday after heading out to gather mushrooms. Authorities launched a search operation only to discover his lifeless body bearing claw marks consistent with bear attack. I'm sure Japan realizes this. They can absolutely understand what killed that man by doing DNA tests on his body. Following the brutal mauling, a local police officer from the northern region said, quote, a man in his 70s who went missing after going into the woods to harvest mushrooms was found dead. We suspect he was attacked by a bear. I have a stupid question. If it wasn't a bear, what was it? Local broadcaster reported that his torso and head had been separated, further reinforcing beliefs that it was a grizzly, not like grizzly bear, like a grizzly scene, a grizzly bear attack. The incident comes amid a marked surge in bear attacks across Japan in recent years, raising considerable safety concerns for residents living in close proximity to the forest. Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. In a separate incident, another man, also in his 70s, was found dead in a different part of Iwate on the same Wednesday. Meanwhile, on Saturday, the body of a 78-year-old man bearing multiple claw marks was discovered in the central prefecture of Nagano. According to Japan's environmental minister, between April and September this year, a total of 103 individuals across the country sustained injuries caused by bears. In a bizarre incident, an agitated bear was spotted wandering through the aisles of a supermarket in Gunma, north of Tokyo, on Tuesday. The animal left 2 men injured and sent countless shoppers into a panic. Well, he knows where to shop. Last year, also in Gunma Prefecture, on the island of Honshu, a black bear forced its way into an elderly couple's home while they were asleep, inflicting injuries on their faces and heads. In Akita, also on Honshu, a 64-year-old man was tragically killed while foraging for bamboo shoots in May. Others attempting to retrieve his body were then set upon by the bear and forced to withdraw. Bears, predominantly vegetarian and insect-eating by nature, have reportedly developed an appetite for meat owing to Japan's rapidly growing deer population. Hunting once kept their numbers under control, but with fewer hunters operating today, those that remain frequently leave carcasses in the mountains, providing an effortless meal for hungry bears. It is also thought that the heavy summer rainfall of 2023, followed by a prolonged drought, took a significant toll on the fruit harvest and insect population for the bears. The shortage of food is considered a likely factor driving the animals to seek nourishment elsewhere, including the vicinity of human settlements where attacks have been on the rise. Yasushi Fujimoto, the head of hunting organizations, said, quote, "The mountain is turning into a restaurant for bears because of the remains left on the mountain after hunting." Quote, "The lack of professional hunters like park rangers in Alaska financed by the government is a problem when it comes to controlling the number of bears." See, we kind of have that problem right now in Montana because of grizzly bears and the lack of hunting grizzly bears. The state, which is the intimate management tool for grizzly bears in Montana, has recommended for the last 3 years that the federal agency drop the protection around grizzly bears and open it up for hunting on a limited nature. They won't do it. Well, the issue in my mind is that the bears have moved out of the mountains and down into the plains looking for food and looking for open range, because bears compete for an open range. They force other bears out of their range, so they've got to go elsewhere. They go down into the plains, into the fields, into the ranches. And those cause confrontations. Those confrontations result in injuries and deaths, which is where we are today. So that's my bit about that. I know one thing I was going to tell you is July 25th of this year, about a month and a half, I'm going to be in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. If you've never been to Gatlinburg, it is worth just going to see the town. Great town. Great downtown area. And in fact, if you Google bear on Gatlinburg streets, there are bears sometimes that walk down the streets of Gatlinburg. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of bears in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park range, and the park almost abuts up next to the town. So if you don't like going into towns, then you got the park to visit. The park is huge. It's worth visiting. I've probably been in that park 50 times. Unbelievable place. Lots of fun. Just that whole area, I like it a lot. And I've been to Gatlinburg many times to talk. I haven't been there in a couple years. If you go to Gather Up, GATHERUP, Gather Up events, you're going to see the lineup there, and it's stellar. It's really a good group of people. It's worth going to. It'll be one of the best conferences this year. Now, what I'm going to talk to you today is about the state of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is an interesting place. In Missing 411 Eastern U.S., I wrote about the state and the large amount of people that are missing between 1940 and 1950. I can't account for why, but it's more than any other state. And it's predominantly young people, 20 years and under. I can't understand why either. Well, this story, I wrote about it in Missing 411 Hunters, second edition book, available at missing411.com. The story involves a young man named George Franks, 20 years old, missing December 4th, 1950. It's a picture of George. Now, they were hunting at a place called the Scarlet Oak Hunting Cabin near the Shahola Marsh Reservoir in Lord's Valley near Milford, PA. It's located at the far northeast corner of Pennsylvania near the three corners of New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. Now, George is a 20-year-old son of a Philadelphia police officer. He and his dad had gone up to the cabin for years, hunted that area for years. George was a very, very experienced outdoorsman, in good shape, knew how to hunt, knew the dangers, knew safety procedures, knew how to survive in the wild, as Dad said. George was married, had one child, and he had a disability. He was hearing impaired, and it was described that he spoke in a very identifiable manner. Meaning, if you were sitting across a restaurant and you heard this person speak, you would know right away it was George. Now, one of the things I talk about in Missing 411 is illness or disability is one of those things that seems to pop its ugly head up in a lot of these cases. This is one of those cases. The area, let me show you a picture. This is something new I found. That is actually the cabin they were hunting out of. The area of the cabin had many ponds, swamps, creeks, and a river. In early December 1950, George and his dad went and met other family members and some friends up at this cabin to hunt for a while. Didn't say how long they were going to be there. But George knew that area really well, had hunted it alone. His dad was unconcerned about him going out alone. On December 4th, 1950, everybody went out, hunted early in the morning, came back, had lunch. George changed into some different clothes, some dry clothes. Apparently he got wet being out there. And then he was ready to go out at about 1 p.m. and hunt some more. And the older guys were doing what older guys do. Talk. Commiserate. But dang, they've been out all morning hunting. They're tired. But not George. He says, hey guys, I'm going to go out. And he says, I'm not going to go far, but I'm going to hunt around here. His dad says, good, be safe. We'll see you soon. So George goes out. They don't hear any gunshots, like if he had shot a deer. But at 5 p.m. it was dark, and he hadn't come back. And all of the men were concerned. And they decided that they would go out and look for him. One of the first things they did is they fired off 3 shots. That's to let a hunter know, hey, this is where safety's at. Now, if you're the hunter in distress, you fire off 3 shots, and the people that are looking for you know that's where you're at. Do that every hour, and that is the reason that if you're a hunter, you should carry about 20 rounds on you. I'm not kidding. Because if you're truly lost, if you break a leg out there, you're not moving. You're going to lay there. And you might need 9, 12, 15 rounds before they find you. Well, they fired off some rounds. They got no rounds in return. They were consistently calling his name. They weren't getting a response. They honked the horn on their cars at the cabin. They got no response. And they stayed out till really early in the morning. On December 5th, one of the men got up very early and drove to Milford into the state police headquarters to look for help. State police immediately sent a group. About 11 a.m., they arrived at the cabin. They interviewed Mr. Franks. And after they saw his concern and they understood the experience of his son and that he wasn't going to be far and that the men hadn't found him, they immediately called for more assistance, for more state police. They asked for game wardens, park rangers, and they also contacted a colonel with the Civil Air Patrol to start doing overflights. So that started to get going late in the afternoon on December 5th. And December 6th started, more resources were getting summoned, and as the day moved on, the weather started to change really bad. Freezing rain and snow, inundated with the low clouds. Bloodhounds that were en route were canceled. Planes that were going to be used were canceled, all because of the weather. There was a limited number of ground searchers that went out looking, even in this horrific weather. December 6th, the resources that were requested the day before were summoned again. And late in that day, weather started to change again. Mr. Franks was interviewed and he said he wasn't too concerned. He knew his son was in good shape, knew the area, knew how to survive, and he was optimistic that he'd be found. December 7th, weather slowly changed. More resources were requested. December 8th, a helicopter flew the skies along with several Civil Air Patrol planes. And the cities in the surrounding area heard about the request for assistance, and 200 loggers and trappers, essentially they were locals that knew the area, and also several Philadelphia police officers had heard that one of their officers had lost their son, and they responded for the need for searchers. By December 9th, the search commanders were baffled that they didn't find any clothing, pieces of clothing, tracks, boots, rifles, shells, nothing. And usually by now they would be finding things, they said. December 10th through the 18th, hundreds of locals circulated through the search. Every couple of days, some would leave, some would come back. They had to go back to their families, had to go back to work. An unusually high number of searchers for this time of the year in that area of Pennsylvania. After 2 weeks, they found nothing and the search was shut down. Now, fast forward 3 months, March 7th, 1951, the headlines in the papers are, "Search for missing hunter may be undertaken on a large scale." A colonel named Newweller of the Civil Air Patrol was organizing a comprehensive search in conjunction with the local state police. And he said he was doing it on his own because he knew that George's parents wanted to have some closure. George's wife wanted to have some closure. And there was another big turnout. To show you how this is a true mystery, 27 years after the incident happened, there were headlines in the Sunday Chronicle, November 27th, 1977. Quote, "The case of the lost hunter, still a Pocono mystery." So just to let you know, these aren't my words. It is a true mystery. The paper interviewed a man named Ed Lasky, who lived nearby that search zone and participated in the search. He said that hundreds of people walked arm in arm through those woods. He says he clearly remembers it because it was so cold. He said there were rumors going around that George had gotten a case of amnesia and walked out of there not knowing where he was going. There There were also rumors that he was seen in Hollywood, Florida. And actually, investigators went down there and followed up on that lead, and they found nothing. There was no evidence of that at all. And then they followed that up with more information on that March 51 search. They said that heavy snows at the time made searching a huge obstacle. That was more information that wasn't really clear at the time. Now, where are we talking about here? So, this is the New York state line. This is Pennsylvania. This is the location of the search, Lord's Valley. And this right here, that's the Shahola Marsh Reservoir right here. This is a really wild area in here. Lots and lots of water. You can see all the little blues. It's all water. All water. Those swampy water areas are really, really tough to search when it's cold, because you got to walk through it and your feet get cold. Unless you're wearing waterproof boots, it's brutal. Well, April 7th, 51, there was more clarity on the search. The searcher said, we knew he was deceased and we tried to find the body for the family. He also said that the U.S. Air Force sent 3 different rescue planes from Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts that were used. And he said that they flew grid patterns over the area for 25 square miles. 700 ground searchers, he said, an unbelievable number participated in that April 51 search. And they actually called it at the time Operation Pike County. And he said that the military troops, ground pounders, were used on the ground, and they had communications with the planes in the sky. The search unbelievably found nothing belonging to George. It's hard to comprehend that. Now, an explanation of the thoroughness of the search. The searchers found 1 left-handed mitten, a couple of .22 caliber shell casings, and multiple bones of all shapes and sizes. Most of them turned out to be animal, but none of them turned out to be George. Further follow-up, in April of 57, a youngster found a skeleton in Shahola Creek nearby. And right away the speculation was that it was George. Would have been 7 years after he disappeared. Well, the state police went in and they did a historical background check on the area to see who was missing, and they found out that that area where the bones were found was right next to an old lumber camp and their burial grounds. And during the floods there in 1955, it washed away part of the burial grounds, and those bones washed away with it. That's some great work by the state police to figure that out. Now, as some of you know, I've written, documented, and presented many stories about amnesia. And let's pretend that George got a case of amnesia. This was about the time frame that people were getting amnesia, if you remember right. And he wandered away with a rifle in his hand and hunting clothes. He would have eventually been seen walking down a road like that. That would have been pretty unusual. Somebody would have seen him. Somebody would have reported him. Somebody looking for help. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am, but I need help. Obviously, he would have said that. But nothing like that was found. Now, why would none of George's clothes, boots, rifle be found? Think about that. Since 1950, 75 years of hunting seasons have had hunters walk that area where George was lost, and nothing has been found. How many of you have watched American Sasquatch Man, Myth or Monster, a movie I made available on Amazon? Raise your hand. In that movie, if you remember, I interviewed a retired National Park Ranger. And she said that she had walked through Great Smoky Mountain National Park hundreds of times, knew an area that she was walking through, and she walked between a couple of large trees, and she said all of a sudden everything changed. She says, it's like I walked through a different dimension or a different portal. I didn't recognize anything. I've heard this many, many, many times. I heard her from Colin Kelleher from Skinwalker Ranch, another interview in that movie. And I state this to you because if those people can describe something like a portal or a dimensional shift, if you look on the NASA website, portals, Google NASA portals, they say they are real, folks. I'm not making this up. All right, let's talk about one more thing here. This is important. Important factors on this search. George was a hunter, a subgroup of the missing. He had a disability. He was hearing impaired. Many missing have a disability or an illness. The weather changed almost immediately as the searches started. Water, almost everywhere in the hunting area. Swamps, creeks, bogs, reservoir. What can I say about that? I mean, it's everywhere. Point of separation. When George was in the cabin and he said goodbye to the men that he was going to go hunt alone, there's something watching. It's like they wait until you're alone and then something can happen. No tracks found in the area that could be followed. And then the weather successfully kept the canines out of that area. Then I always ask the question, could George's hearing impairment play some role in the disappearance? Remember Carl, who was the hunter in Wyoming that I had in my film, Missing 411, The Hunted? Remember that? I'm sorry, Missing 411, The UFO Connection. Remember that? Well, Carl said that the aliens didn't want him because he had a medical condition. What if the aliens are looking for people with disabilities so that they can fix a DNA issue with us? I'm just thinking outside the box. A lot of people with disabilities. So maybe they want to take them and run tests and see if they can permanently cure that mistake in our DNA. I don't know. The idea that George would walk out of that area in the middle of nowhere purposely seems ridiculous. He was too far in the middle of nowhere. You're not going to walk out of there without people seeing you. There were no articles stating that he wasn't a devoted father and husband. And I think that's important. There were so many articles about this case that I think eventually that would have come out if he was. And there was no evidence of that. Now, this is the hard part. If I was George's dad, if I was Mr. Franks, there's no way I could ever hunt out of that cabin again without the first priority being finding my son. Think about that. I can guarantee the disappearance haunted his family for a lifetime. And the story is in Missing 411 Hunters, 2nd edition. Friends, some of you don't realize the importance of historical cases. History teaches us a lot. What was possible technology-wise today wasn't probably available in 1950. So that meant whatever was happening in 1950 was probably happening in 1900 and 1800. And if you look back through history, how far back I can go with these cases, it goes back a long time. So, I appreciate your support. And remember, we have 900 plus videos right here on this channel. Always read the #1 comment, because that will give you links to other important related events that you can watch on our channel. Kindness. Sometimes I don't get so kind of comments out there, but that comes with the territory. But I appreciate all the people that comment politely. You are appreciated. And our world's a strange place, probably much different than we actually grew up to believe. And with this age of disclosure that's coming about on UFOs, I hope that what I've done is slowly acclimate you to the possibilities. I don't know what's happening, but I do know what other people tell me has happened to them. They are believable. And I hope that you have watched my movies to see their faces as they tell their stories. Remember, tubi.com. You can watch my first 3 movies, Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, Missing 411 The UFO Connection, for free right there. Now, our latest movies, Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State, and American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster, both available on Amazon. Please go and watch them. And then leave a review. And if you would post this video or post a link to my movies, that always helps. Be safe, be kind. Paulides out.